What do you think is the relationship between time and UFOs? Is there some interesting relationship? Are they from the future? Are aliens and Close Encounters of the Third Kind just experiences with our future selves? Or yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay, so what's really interesting is that, okay, so after the, around 2019 or so, I started to meet people who were people from technology communities, right?
Yeah.
Techies, basically.
Yeah.
And a lot of them really resonated with Tyler and recognized themselves. And a lot of them were creators of AI. And some of them did quantum computing and things like that. And so I started to engage with them because I was learning from them. And I was learning about this whole idea of, what are these things, right? And so I thought that their ideas were very interesting because the normal idea is that they're extraterrestrial, which means that they're from another solar system or even our solar system, who knows, and they've somehow, have some kind of craft that comes here.
Yeah.
This is supported by craft retrieval, talk and stuff like that, and they come here. But that doesn't accord with what people see when they see them in the sky.
No.
They kind of disappear and reappear, disappear, reappear.
Yeah.
So this would suggest something entirely different, or that, we just don't understand that technology that they have. So AI people, being really smart and generally very self-confident, believe that they could figure it out. So they've been talking about the temporal aspects of it, right? So and by the way, this guy named Stephen Dick, who is a NASA historian and has been for like 40 years. He's now retired, but he's on the research team for the Galileo project. I've corresponded with him for about a long time, since the beginning of my study, which is in 2012. He's been doing this for a long time. And more than 20 years ago, he suggested that these were AI, a form of AI, or that if we met them, they would be a form of AI. And so this accorded with what Jacques Vallée said, that they're technological, right?
Right. Or it's like cellular automata, or these sort of control systems that it's like if you were trying to get, so there's like rats in a prime number maze. They don't understand the concept of prime numbers, right? So there's no way you can say turn right every single time you hit a prime number.
Right.
But with Pavlovian conditioning or intermittent reinforcement, you could get them to run a prime number maze. They don't know what they're doing.
No, they're just going on the impulse to get the treat or whatnot.
But they're implementing some grand plan, or kind of grand plan in the process, a plan that you know.
Right.
And so maybe these are AI Envoy von Neumann replicators or something that nip at the herd in ways that we don't know. It's like, why Betty and Barney Hill, and why Antonio Villas-Boas? Like, why these specific people? But it might be moving us, swaying society in a specific teleology or something.
Well, yeah. So in conversations with some of these AI people, they were basically saying that now that we have that the discovery is true of superposition, and this, what it shows us is that there is this, place beyond space-time, and there's information there. And so this is information coming to us, and it's intelligent, and that it doesn't have the same, it doesn't have the same, or it's that the carrier is different, right? So it's not us.
Yeah. Well, before I don't want to forget this, because we were talking about Tyler. You go to the Vatican Observatory with him.
Yes.
And he has a conversion experience.
Yes.
And so, okay, can we talk about that? Because that seems like this profound thing where he bursts into tears and he says, all I want to do, I don't care if I ever go back into the space program. All I want to do is help people.
Yeah, because he was really doing a lot of this. He wasn't really conscious about what he was doing. He was just doing it, right? This was his job. He was doing it since he was really young, and he was really good at it. He knew what to do. He knew how to do it, okay? So then when he met me, I told him what he was doing. And that forced him to start to think about, wait, this has been happening?
Yeah.
And so when we went to the Vatican, this priest comes up to him, and then they engage, and then the priest somehow immediately decides that he's gonna take on Tyler like a mentor or something.
Yeah.
And he even blesses the project. Yeah, so there's a picture of him blessing like the project, which hadn't even been named. or it may have been named. I don't know. It was American Cosmo. He blessed it. He's just a really nice guy. I'm just going to call him Father K.
Cool.
Father K would take us to his chapel, which is outside the Vatican in Rome. It was at a hospital. And he would take us on his rounds. So we would go to the hospital in the morning, do mass, and then go on his rounds. And he would take us to people who were ill, some of them terminally ill. And he would have us help him give, it's not mass rites, but it's a rite of healing to very sick people. And he would do that. And some of the people made a huge impression on Tyler because there was a man who was fairly young and, he was terminally ill. And I don't think that Tyler had ever been around somebody, he dedicated their lives basically to other people. I saw that he started to get internal and started to become reflective about himself. And I could feel that this was happening, but I didn't know it was going to happen. I just could sense that something was happening like this. So then that's when we went to the observatory. And in the observatory is the Catholic observatory. It's run by a Jesuit monk who's, an astronomer.
MIT trained.
Yeah. He's really, he and Tyler could have some good conversations, right? So the people that are there and populate the observatory are the kind of people that would be in the space program, but they're super religious. They're Catholic. Mm-hmm. And so I had this feeling that when Tyler met them, that it would be over for him, that he would definitely know that there was something great and truthful and, there was something like a God, right? Actually, strangely enough, the International Space Agency people were there, 30 of them or so, and they were all really young. Yeah. It was a whole thing for the International Space Agency, young astrophysicists and stuff. And they actually knew who Tyler was.
Wow.
Yeah. Because no one knows who he is here. He kind of got overcome with I wouldn't say emotion, but maybe it was emotion. He got overcome with the epic nature of what was happening and of what we were doing and looking at actual books that were written by Copernicus, first editions and stuff, Wow. It was really amazing.
And Copernicus had he was obviously came up with the theoretical model that the solar system revolves around the sun and that we live in a heliocentric universe. But he had a very interesting relationship with the sun. It was almost like a very spiritual endeavor.
I didn't
for
know
him.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Isaac Asimov actually has a great book called The Kingdom of the Sun, and it's about our relationship to the sun throughout history. And there's a whole section dedicated to Copernicus, who was a very mystical thinker when it came to the sun.
Fascinating. I did not know that.
Yeah, and I think of the sun too as it's like a nuclear fusion. It is a nuclear fusion reactor.
Yeah.
And it sort of powers the earth. And Henri Bergson, which we just spoke about, is, kind of French mystical, but also kind of science, maybe pseudoscientific thinker in the early 20th century, late 19th century, also thought that the sun specifically spurred on evolution. It was somehow essential to the evolution of mankind. And so maybe it's a combination of the electromagnetic field of the earth, the noosphere, Pierre Desjardins, and then also this sort of the sun as well. But
that's fascinating.
Anyway, back to Tyler is studying this stuff. And do you think in some ways for Tyler it was a convergence of Catholic faith, but also his life being dedicated to space?
Absolutely.
It probably made him realize just how profoundly meaningful his past life had been.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's exactly what happened. Because I knew that he had a profoundly meaningful life. But because he was in this community of being secret, the Fight Club community that I discussed, no one could ever know it. So then to have him recognized by international space scientists, the European international space scientists, it was a beautiful thing, to tell you the truth. And then he decided to convert. And here I am doing this, this study for years and years, and then this kind of happens. But also what happens is he changes his idea of what these things are that he's feeling he's getting signals from. So he feels that they're more in line with because we were studying saints who had these experiences, and he was thinking that they're more in line with what they were, experiencing too.
And he comes from a line you've talked about Tsiolkovsky, the father of Russian rocketry, or Jack Parsons, who had claimed to be kind of in contact with entities. Werner von Braun would say all sorts of trippy stuff. He was the father of German rocketry, and then went on to run the NASA Saturn project, which took us to the moon. And so, is there something about the history of the American, or just space programs in general, that is more consciousness based than we somehow realize?
The Russian space program was inspired by early rocket scientists like Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, who had basically constructed his own cosmic religion or worldview around space. This included a belief that humans would colonize the Milky Way, achieve immortality, regulate the forces of nature at will, and transition our biosphere into a new sphere, a mental network. He also believed humans would achieve time travel. His American counterpart, Jack Parsons, was equally unbounded by convention. He was part of the Pasadena cult OTO, along with Scientology creator L. Ron Hubbard. The two would perform sex magic rituals, and Parsons even received a past life regression in which he was Simon of Magus, a biblical character who used black magic to levitate. All of that is to say, maybe the true history of American and Russian space programs is stranger than meets the eye.
Yes, they were doing some extraordinary types of rituals, and they definitely believed that they were in touch with these beings. They presented them differently. So the Parsons crew, they were way out there. And they were doing this in the LA desert, right? And stuff. And they were doing ritual magic, and they believed that they were in contact with, extraterrestrials and things like that. All right. On the Russian side, though, they were doing the same thing, but it was under a Christian veneer. So Tchaikovsky believed that he was actually in touch with angelic beings, and he talks about it and writes about it, and that these beings are in constant contact with us if we're able to receive their knowledge.